All right, so welcome to Scrapbook Live. I am Megan Jacks. Today is August 16th. I have a fun project for you guys. Today is from the Creative Memories blog. This blog post originally was shared on June 16th. It was a Father's Day blog, or a Father's Day idea. But of course, as you know, any of these layouts can be through papers, and your photos can work with whatever theme you want them to be done. So this is actually a really great one because you get to play with papers, you get to play with your tools, and it only has one photo on it, which normally is not something that really appeals to me. But I have this one photo of Kitty that's just adorable, and I really wanted to showcase it by itself. I can still make a companion page that would go on maybe the other side that would have maybe some more snapshots of her, but this one would be kind of what you call a little bit of a statement page where you've taken a little bit more time. It's going to take us a little time, probably, I think, to line up those squares or whatever punch detail you're using. And then we're going to have that one single focus photo. But really the way this layout is set is you've got that focal detail, the way that comes to a point that's pointing to the right currently. You can always flip it around and go a different direction. It would really lend itself if you did have a second page, you wanted to have just more of a general, lots of photos on the page as that second companion page. Let this page be that statement page where you're really just trying to showcase a photo, and then you can have all the additional photos off to the right page. If you are the type of person who wants to have a two-page layout, I know several of you do always scrap in double pages because of the way we do our albums. All right, so that's enough chatter. Let me go ahead over to the overhead camera and we'll take a look at what we've got going. All right, so I've got my handout here. There's a link to it in the description of the live for today. And like I said, it's the June 16th CM blog project. If you want to be taken to the website, the CM website, the blog, you can use this QR code here. I just copy and paste the directions from the layout or the website. They do use the Cue the Blue collection here. I believe that's all still available. The embellishments may not be, but I believe the Cue the Blue is. And down here, if you do want to share your finished layout, you can share it into Scrapbooking with Megan, which is my Facebook group, and there's a hashtag you can use for that. If you happen to be catching this on YouTube later, you're watching the recording, in the description below, you'll see a link to my website that has the handout where you can print it. So as I mentioned, I am going to be using, I have this really cute photo of Kitty. Now, I will admit, I printed a 5x7 too, because this was when we first got her, one of the first days where after she was out of her, exploring the house a little bit more. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to use the 5x7 or the 4x6. So I printed both. I have the Epson PM400, which did a fantastic job printing these. And so I'm going to set these aside. I will deal with the photos, once I get the background made. So for today's background, in the directions, step number 3 is where they talk about making all of the squares. The one thing they don't detail is the size of the squares. They are using the square punch, which is a 1 3/4 inch punch size. That's the size that it punches. So if you have your handout and you have a handy dandy little piece of a pen or something here, just write that those are 1 3/4 inch squares. So if you are having to make your squares individually, you can just cut these to 1 3/4 and have the same spacing. You can make them larger, you can make them smaller. Really, there's a lot of flexibility in this design on how you put it together. If you make them larger or smaller, it will just be a little bit different than how I put it together because of your spacing, but in principle, the same concepts will work. You just have a little bit different measurements. The other thing is you could use circles, you could mix in your punches. The nice thing about the Creative Memories, these square punches and the circle punch, is they are 1 3/4 inch, which does a really nice job of framing our regular shape punches. So I will likely be incorporating some of the paw punch. Now, I know some of you maybe didn't have a chance to get this off the website. Maybe you pre-ordered it or reserved it. Just a quick FYI, timing of that is, I believe, October-ish for the paw punch. If you order the fireworks, the same timing is there. So I know I've had several questions from customers about that. We should see those coming back into the warehouse in October if you pre-ordered them. All right, so I have already punched some pieces here. I told you in the when I put the notice up about the live this morning that I was going to do that because you guys really don't need to see me punch 30 squares. I have, I believe I have 24 here. Yeah, I have 8 piles of 3 pieces each. So that was 4 different sheets of paper that I used, and I just flipped over so I could see what pieces I have, what colors. I still need to punch some more. So I am, let's see, I had the piece of paper. Oh, here it is. I was going to punch this medium tone paw print. It is, I think this is from the, for the cat. I am using both papers. So I have mixed my papers together from fur baby cat and fur baby dog. So I think so far I've only used cat, but if you see one that doesn't look like it's part of the cat collection, it's because it's the dog. They kind of do all go together, even though I have just a cat. So one of the things they ask us to do is they do say in step number 2, they want you to cut 7 2.5 by 12-inch strips from a variety of papers. You will then punch from that strip of paper. I don't think that step is quite necessary. You certainly could punch, cut them and then punch. I actually just, here, it's better you just see that side. I just kept my paper the same size or whatever size I had, right? This is a scrap of the orange, and I just punched 6. You can actually get 6. The tip for using that, if you're going to try to get 6, is you've got to punch with your punch upside down. The reason is that's going to let you, let me show you on this other scrap that I'm using. I can come in here and I can punch and I can see exactly where my paper is. That lets me space this and get the most squares per piece. Now, of course, if I were to just trim this to a 1.5 or 1 3/4 inch and then slice, sure, that would actually be the most efficient use because you can see here I am wasting a little bit of space between. The one thing that I like about the square punch is that I'm always getting the same size. When doing a project like this, it is really helpful that I know every single piece is exactly the same size. When you're making squares, or you're doing the repetitive cuts with the trimmer, it is really easy to have one square be a little bit bigger than the next, maybe a little bit smaller, because we're human. We're not a kind of a machine, a tool. This tool will always make the same size square. When you're using your trimmer to cut the squares, you may end up with slight differences, which over the course of putting all of these pieces down, it can get a little bit off. Probably not enough that you're going to really worry about it, but that will be something to keep in mind. So I really like the square punch. If you don't have it, you might want to put it on your wish list. There'll be some buying opportunities, I'm sure, coming up this fall as we go into the kind of picking up on what I call the scrapbook season. I'm not sure how many of you scrapped much over this summer. Here in Washington State, once we can no longer get into our gardens, I call that scrapbook season. When it's really wet and miserable and dark outside, that's the time to really be scrapbooking. All right, so here we go. I've got pieces. I've got all of my papers over here ready to go if I need to pull in other colors. So what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about how to start this, because just like when you're laying tile in your home, that's effectively what we're doing here. We're laying tile on our paper. How we set the first few pieces is going to dictate how the rest of this goes. So our goal is to get the first few pieces in place as perfectly as we can, but it's a scrapbook page, so if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. I do have some repositionable adhesive available. I am working with the beige cardstock as my base. I really like how that looks. I've got a lot of other things I've done with beige for this with the fur baby collection, so it's kind of going a little bit lighter. I could have used something like the hot fudge, but I thought that was just a little dark and heavy, so I'm going with the beige. All right. You might want to have your T-square ruler available, or just another ruler. If you don't have a T-square, you can get a regular ruler, will be helpful. We have to make a couple of lines, or at least one line. We might make two. You're going to want to have, we're going to make those lines first. The one line I know, oh, you guys, I have to tell you just right now, you won't know who showed up outside my house right now. The UPS man, he's here with all of my stuff. So I'm super excited. He's not going to be excited because I have a bunch of stuff. Those are big boxes. Okay, so back to the project at hand. I want to draw a line that's going to come out here at 6 inches. 6 inches from the top, 6 inches from the bottom, right down the middle. The reason I'm going to do that is my goal is I want to line up one row of squares that's going to come out, and that 6-inch line is going to let me do that. And I'm putting my pencil lines down first because I want to start putting pieces on, and I'll probably do a little bit of a dry fit first. That will let me kind of just play around with the colors. What I am going to do, before we get going too far here, I am going to do a little bit of repo on my paper. Don't you love how we flip over cardstock when we need to put adhesive? Habits. That repo is going to let me line it up on here. It's going to stay attached. Okay. If I look at how they have this space, the one thing I want to do is I am going to plan for a half triangle all the way up. You can see in their example that they have a slight tilt to things. They weren't able to stick with this half triangle or the half square, the triangle going all the way up. If that's how yours ends up, that's fine. I am going to aim for half triangles all the way up. So what I plan to do is I'm going to come in here. Oh, I didn't actually mark. Let me mark this. 6 inches. I said I was going to mark it, but I didn't. I put the T-square there, but didn't actually mark the space. I don't need to go all the way over, and I'm going very light. You're not going to be able to see my pencil line, but I can see it. That's what matters. I know that I need to have a half triangle. I need to have a triangle. I'm not going to cut these yet because I don't know for sure that how my patterns are going to go. I do know that when I put my pieces down, I want to try to balance out my lighter colors. I've got 4 lighter colors here. You can see the pinkish, the light blue, the words, plus the yarn balls. And I've got, it looks like 5 slightly darker tonal colors. So I want to make sure when I'm grabbing these that I can mix the lights and the darks and the patterns. So that's what I'm trying to balance out. So we'll see. So what I am going to do here is I am lining up the first triangle pieces here on the edge. Well, they're squares, but they'll be triangles. I'll be able to cut them off. I am putting the tip. Let me see if I can raise this up without dumping. You see I'm putting that tip there? It's going to be 1/8 above 6 and 1/8 below 6 inches. That's the plan. Then I'll be able to come in with my next triangle, and it's going to line up on that pencil line. I'm using that pencil line to establish level across. So every piece that's here will always be tip to tip on that pencil line. Once you get your first piece in here, you could come back in with your T-square or your ruler, and I can see where does that piece lie. And it is roughly this vertical line, if I wanted to put it in, would it be at about just shy of 1 3/8? It really depends on how big of a, kind of a grout line you want. I call the grout line would be the spacing between the squares. This is the part of the layout where you're going to want to spend just a little bit more time. Like I said, these first few pieces set the tone for the rest of the piece. I remember that when my tile guy laid our tile in our house down in Arizona, the way it was all set up, it took him quite a while to measure and make sure that very first tile he set was exactly where he wanted it, because it had to go down a hallway, had to go in the entry room, had to go into another room, and then had to go all the way into the kitchen. We were kind of doing all house tile, and that first piece really set the tone for the rest. And it was well worth the time that he invested, because that tile looked fantastic. All right, so I think that would actually be my square line here. If I want to, I'm going to go ahead. Well, I will do it. My pencil, I'm going to come in and draw a vertical line. I'm only going to worry about it for this first row. So I've got a horizontal line and I've got a vertical line. That will let me place this tile right there is the important one. I use these other pieces to help set it, but this right here, if I build everything off of this master piece right there, and I take my time, I can use a ruler to really get everything lined up nicely, it should work out well. Now I'm just gonna start kind of putting pieces on here, working on balancing out where I want things to go. I'm not worried about spacing at the moment. I am just worried about overall pattern. So I will just keep working to put pieces in. And you just kind of fiddle around with it a little bit. So you can see it starting to take shape. And of course, I'm gonna have to adhere all these down, but it is more important right now for me to get the colors separated out from each other. This is where actually the overhead camera is really great for me, because I can start to see where I need various pieces. And I'm still working on getting them put down. I'm going to be a couple pieces short. I will need to come in and cut those, and that's okay. Here we can see this is my leading edge. I actually made it not need to cut any pieces, only because I'm going to have 3 half triangles here, and I have this piece. He can go up there. So in general, I think that'll work. So I see a comment from Bunny saying that she's having some issues with the audio and the video. If you're having issues, sometimes Facebook likes to muck things up. So you might have to jump out of the, to log out and log back in, or to stop the video, come back into the live. It'll just bring you back into the same spot. So at this point, I'm just going to be starting to adhere some things in place. So I like this spacing. I'm going to have to come in and fill in some pieces, and that's okay, but I'm going to go ahead and work on getting everything adhered into place. So I've got my handy dandy mat here, and I'm just going to bring over these pieces. This first piece, I want to take my time to set it. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go ahead, oops, this piece is just a triangle, so it doesn't need, I will come back in and I will cut off those extra pieces, the overhang. What I'm going to do is, see, that overhang up there needs to be pink, I think. There is a certain amount of eyeballing that you're going to have to do. I have roughly a 1/4 inch between these pieces. So remember, I put this at just 1/8 above 6 inches and 1/8 below. And so what I'm going to do, that's a 1/4 inch. So when I come down here, I can see this one, it's lined up. I find that closest 1/8 of an inch that's lined up to, and I line up my next piece, that next piece that will become that triangle after I cut it. I line out so there's the same spacing. So yeah, I do see a comment. I will rotate my, there. So then I'll remember that all the little pieces that you have that do have, you want to have a little bit of some continuity of pattern direction. I'm going to use a pink piece up here, and for that, I'm going to steal this pink piece for now. I need to cut another one. Oh, there's the pink. Just trying to find my scraps. I try to clean up a little bit after myself, which is sometimes a disaster because then I put things away and I don't remember where I put them. I swear every time I clean, I have a different, I try something new, right? Like, oh, I'll try this organization. Maybe that'll help keep me on task. And then no, it doesn't. All it does is serve to have me confused and I can't remember where things are. Okay, so I'm setting up these edge pieces. That will allow me to get these pieces into place. I am going to have to take my eraser and come in and erase between the lines or between the squares. That's okay. I'm not worried. Anything that overhangs, I will clean up later. I will come back and I will cut those scraps off and actually use those to fill in. As you're doing this, you want to check your lines. I think the the first time you do any layout, it's always a little bit hard as you're trying to figure out all of those, the little tips and tricks on trying to put this together. What I can do afterwards too, after I get this next row, this vertical set of pieces in, is I can bring my T-square ruler in and I can double check that my points are all straight up the line. I don't necessarily need to put a pencil line in. I mean, I could pencil line every row, and that would certainly ensure that I get everything lined up correctly. I may need to double check that one. That looks pretty good. Come over here and double check this one. I look good. I can see I'm flush with the edge of my paper, and I can see straight up the line. I look really good. Keep on going. So the horizontal line, sorry guys, I missed a comment here. The question is about where were these lines placed. So I placed one at 6 inches, and this line, this vertical line, is actually placed, it is just shy of 1 3/8 inch, just shy. You could actually probably come over to that 1 3/8 if you want that exact number. It may just give you a slightly wider grout line. That's what I call the lines between. But the key there is just, you know, make sure you, however you want to measure it. I just made sure at the top and the bottom it was the same. Yeah, the 6 inches gives us the all of the squares that come across the middle will be level at 6 inches, and that really just keeps us on target for the rest of this. Got to make sure all my triangles on this tonal pink piece are in place. I am going to really quickly come in and just double check with my ruler again that this second row is also on target. I look pretty good. This, yeah, I mean, it's hard to be perfect. I mean, that's why when they put in tile, right, they have those spacers that they put in to help them maintain the space. I almost wish we had little spacers like that. They do have some, I've seen them online before, some spacer things that can help. They're not maybe necessarily designed for this. Getting these last few pieces in actually comes together pretty quick, I think, once you get in the groove, right? It's repetitive. It's pretty repetitive. And if you start to see yourself with a little bit of things veering off course, it's okay. This area over here is going to be under some photos anyway, so I'm not as concerned about it. I mean, I think if I look at the I mean, honestly, you could probably leave off the first, I could probably leave off these two entirely, and because I'm probably going to cover them with, right? So you could come to that point, especially if you think you're going to maybe use this background a little bit different. But if I leave this as such, and now I can come in with a mat. I don't know if this is the mat I'm going to use, but here's a mat. See, it covers that up. And then I come in with Kitty's 4x6 photo. Now, see, to me, like, this photo just needs to be bigger, right? You got to be able to see it on there. So I am definitely going to use the 5x7 photo. I will probably raise it up just a little bit. I'm going to put a mat, and that's going to let me come in down here with either her name or the additional details on this. Yeah, Anna, this picture is entirely too cute not to do it like full tilt size, right? It's got to be big. All right, so I'm going to come in, finish up putting on these little pieces, and then do the trimming. I can cut with scissors. You can come in with your trimmer and do it. It might be easier just to do the scissors. I've got some extra pieces just because I didn't put those last 3 on. And so I think I'm good enough now. I'm going to pull it from the back. I'm going to move my mat out of the way in case I have any sticky on there. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my finger and rub that out, get that adhesive off the back. That's the nice thing about cardstock is it makes it really easy to pull that repositionable adhesive. And then what I need to do is grab my scissors. I'm going to flip it over to the back side, and I'm going to go ahead and trim just with my scissors. If I trim 2 edges with my scissors, I will actually then be able to come in with my trimmer . My trimmer, I'll grab this side. Line that up, top and bottom, and slice. And now I've got these triangles, these larger the triangle pieces to come in. I even have the little ones would work to come in here at the bottom. That's what I want. I want okay, I want this piece here, but it's not going the right direction. But if I cut it in half, now it does. And it's just a little piece of it. It is not very much that goes into that corner. Yes, Ingrid, I see your comment. This would definitely be a title page. It would be a statement page. I want some green over here. A single photo. I did, you could definitely come in and do a companion page to this. So this is, if I had additional little kitty photos, I could come over here with a second page. So imagine I've got this. It's also, fun. Over here, I can come in with another page and do maybe 4 or 9 squares or some other, not really overly, mostly focus on photos on the other page. Let this really be the statement. You spent a lot of time over on this page putting that together. I think I'm going to come up here at the top and put a little bit of this blue in. And now I'm going to come in and cut all those extra pieces off that I filled the pieces in with. That adhesive on there once it makes everything wanting to stick to my scissors. Okay. There we go. Now the question comes into is what am I going to mat this in? And I'm pretty certain I'm going to mat it in the chocolate color because I'm kind of covering up a lot of that chocolate. You can see here the dark brown pieces, just because of their positioning got moved, which is actually okay because if I use the hot fudge piece here for the mat, it'll be just fine. So here's some hot fudge piece. I might have a scrap. I probably should look for the scrap first, but I really should have done that before we got started today. I don't know that I have a piece. I'm going to go with a chunky mat on it. So I'm going to actually cut this to 5.5 by 7.5. So 5.5 come all the way over to that edge. The edge up here at the top would be 5.5. I could give this a decorative edge if I wanted to. I could have used one of my decorative blades, but I'm not going to worry about it. I do think what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure where they ended up, is I want to use some photo corners. And again, I tried to get organized and I put photo corners and I can't remember where I put them. The craft photo corners. I just think the craft color looks really nice. It kind of matches this crafty color that's here. I've used it in another layout for Kitty. So I'm going to put those craft corners on, but I can do that later. Because what I can do here is I can come in. Do you guys think that's okay? I'm almost thinking that this wasn't quite wide enough of a border because that's me being picky. So rather than cutting a new piece, I'm going to trim this photo ever so slightly. I'm going to take like 1/8 of an inch off. I just want a little bit more matte. Come into my personal trimmer and I am just going to take a little bit off. And we'll take it off the bottom, just a smidge off the bottom. I am like I said, taking about 1/8 of an inch off. I just want a little bit of a chunkier mat. The bigger the photo, the chunkier the mat, that's better. Instead of 1/4 of an inch, we're closer to probably 3/8 of an inch all the way around. Maybe not quite that much. We're probably in the 16s. Anyway, just adjust it till you get the size of the mat you want. So we will get that. Now, one of the things I can do, and we did see that in the initial sample because they used the Cue the Blue set had these really cute embellishment, these little tile embellishment pieces. We can do something similar. We certainly could come in with, a tonal piece here and layer in the paw. We do have the paw punch that we could work with. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to worry about it. I could come in and put the paw in some places. I did this on, if you guys watched Power Hour, I did this for Power Hour. The similar concept where I just put the paw in a couple places on Miss Kitty's, her layout there. And I'm trying to think where else. I want them spaced somewhat evenly. I don't know if I can sneak one in up there. Let me see. I don't know. I may play around with that a little bit more, but you can see that we can add, because we have those squares, that we can do things like that. We can add the squares fit the punched pieces from our shape punches. So something along these lines. Got Miss Kitty in here. I will come in with some additional details down here. And I think that for where I am right now, I'm going to probably put her, I'll probably put, you know, her name here, and then like how many weeks, the date, and how old she was, because she was still very much a kitten. I think this is maybe the day after we brought her home. They change so quickly. I mean, she looks like a regular cat now. She's up to probably 7.5 pounds, almost 8. She is a Maine Coon. She's a Maine Coon, so she's going to get big. We're not quite sure how big that she'll get. She was a runt of the litter, so we're waiting to see where she ends up. But she definitely likes to eat, and she likes to play. So she is burning through those calories, I'm sure. But she's adorable. She's getting into all sorts of stuff. Can't quite jump to the counter yet. She needs a boost, so we have to keep our chairs well away from the counters. Well, I see a question about adding a square over here to the right of the photo. And the reason I won't, I could actually come over further with my mat almost all the way to the edge. But truthfully, what happens is this peak would have come to a natural conclusion about right here. And so that would be hidden underneath whatever photo I put here. Your eye is coming down, and that point is right about there. So it would have been covered up. That's why I'm not too worried about it. I can make some, just kind of figure out where I want things spacing wise. The original layout, they go clear up to that very edge. They did a little bit, they came in with almost like a double matte effect. You can see they offset that darker piece behind it. I certainly could do that. I could come in with a little bit of an offset. Let me just trim this piece down. Get rid of those. That is 7.5 long. I don't know how wide this is. I'm just going to cut this to 7.5. Oops, here, let me do this better. There we go. And that offset might be a fun detail. I don't know. I don't know that the brown's the right color, but you can see, I might actually come in, I might play around with that a little. The other side of it is already a dark brown, so it doesn't really work well for that. I could come in with the orange. I do love the orange. I need to cut another piece. Well, maybe I don't. Nope, I don't think I'm going to have to, because the circles I don't care about. Those are punched out. That's fine. The reason I really like the orange is because she does have those really pretty rust highlights, and so that would really pick that up. Ooh, I do like that. It's a subtle detail that was kind of easy to overlook in the layout. How does that look? I thought about doing the pink. The problem with the pink is, since I'm using such a pale color here, that the pink doesn't really stand out. You do really need a color that's going to stand out. The downside I see to this, and this is where I get picky, is that you see I have these stripes going here, but then down here because of the wave. So what I actually can do is I can come in and I'm going to cut just a 1/2 inch strip here. I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch piece here, and I'm going to do a faux. I'm going to cut a little bit more. Cut it 3/4 of an inch. Instead of I said 1/2 inch. I'm going to make these 3/4 of an inch strips. Give myself a little bit more space to work with. And I'm going to do the faux shadow thing on here. So on this edge, I'm going to come in with my, here it is, my mini tape runner. And I'm just going to come along the edge and put some adhesive. And I'm going to do a faux shadow effect. I'm going to use my grid here to help me with this. I'm going to line this up on that edge, and I want to have about 1/4 of an inch of that mat, maybe a little bit more than 1/4 inch of that mat showing. I'm gonna do just not quite 3/8. It's close to like 5/16. I know you guys hate 16ths. I hate them too. All right, but sometimes, just sometimes, they're the right number. Same thing, putting on this edge. I'm gonna line it up on this mat and layer the same. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my scissors and I'm going to cut this. I'm only going to cut the top layer. And now you can see I've got that edge here. So I got a little bit of a mitered corner, and that makes it so that I have that stripe effect all the way across. That is me being picky. I still am planning, I think, to use those photo corners. I will be able to come in with the photo corners though later. I can add them. What I do for when I put the photo corners, I actually think it's easier to put the photos on first with regular adhesive. Remember, I'm using the photo corners only for decoration. If you're using them because you literally want to be able to pull the photo away later, you wouldn't do this, but they are just decorative. So I'm going to put my photo down first. And then once I locate my craft photo corners, I will come in here, just use my multi-purpose tool is perfect for that, will help me come in, lift it up, slide that photo corner on and put it back into place. The photo corners are very, very sticky. I have always had trouble if I'm putting my photo corners on first and then putting them into place. Inevitably, I get something crooked and I'm trying to peel away a photo corner and it doesn't always work out right. Then this is going to get put on my page. I think I am going to come up just a little bit higher. Be able to tuck that under. Let me put those. I want 3, at least an odd number always seems to work well when you're doing things like the those things that draw your eye, and the paw prints are going to draw my eye. So I'll probably come in something like this. That looks lined up. Looking for that edge. Yep, looks good. Push it down. Now all I need to do is I'm not gonna put these paw prints down right now because I want to go ahead and to put everything else on, and then I'll make sure I like the paw prints. I don't need to adjust spacing or whatever. I'll play around with it a little bit more in that regard. I do see a question asking about how would you do this for an 8x8. It really depends. You could totally do these squares. What you just need to do is you need to find the middle. So you put, instead of at 6 inches, you would put it at 4 inches. And then you could build around that. The squares just proportionally are going to look a little bit bigger on your page. The upside to using these squares is they're easy to punch if you have the cutter or the square punch. If you don't have a square punch and you're going to have to cut them from scratch anyway, I do see a comment from Karen saying to use like a 1-inch square. That would be a great place to start. Super easy to cut those out. If you have some of the smaller square makers from the old Creative Memories, like the blue and the light blue punches, you might be able to punch with those. That would be a lot of fun to do too. The other thing to keep in mind, if you want to be able to do this technique with the punches, the shape punches, and you plan to use a shape punch that is from the new Creative Memories, that is, you know, the 1 3/4 inch size, basically, you're going to want to keep that into consideration. If you're using a 1-inch punch here and trying to put a larger shape punch on top of it, it may not necessarily work. So experiment a little around with it, maybe lay things out, see what you think. And, you know, it's easy enough to make adjustments. Just play with scraps first if you need to. Don't cut your pretty paper until you're sure on the size. All right, so I think that's good. I've got some space here. I'm going to come down in and put her cute little name that we don't ever really call her. Oh, I do have to laugh, guys. So this is really funny. We've already been, let me come back up here to my my face. We've already been discussing that whether we want to get another one next year, early next year, because we had 2 cats before, and we do know that they generally will play with each other, and they do enjoy having a companion to play with. We're home a lot, but sometimes we are gone, and it would be nice for Kitty to have another cat to play with. So we've debated. So I told my husband, I was like, the next one we get, can we name her Sporty? Because remember, her name is Ginger, even though we just call her Miss Kitty a lot of the time. But he just like rolls his eyes. You know, you have to understand that we're terrible at naming things. I mean, Ginger was kind of like, well, let's just call her that, but we'll probably refer to her as Kitty. But if we get another girl, I don't know, we'd have to, if we ended up with a boy, we'd probably call him Cat, because that was our old cat, and Kitty were our older cats that we had when we first, we were married. We first married, we got them. All right. So that's all I have for Scrapbook Live today. Thanks so much for joining me, listening to me as I chat away as we put this together. This layout, if you probably aren't talking, it probably would go together a little bit faster than what I did, but I am really happy with the results. It'll be fun to finish embellishing it out. I will have the final photo to show you guys a little bit later today. The video will go on to YouTube. If you happen to come in late and you have questions about it, you can check out the YouTube video later. If you are, if that still doesn't answer your question, send me a message. I'm happy to help you with that. So just a couple of quick things. Later today, you're going to see Noreen will be coming on with another summer sizzling project. This is like number 7. So that's kind of fun. They do usually have a promo associated with it. So if you're like me, at 3 p.m. Pacific, you're going to be stalking the website to see, what's on sale. And that will be always fun. Remember, that promo is really short. It only lasts until Friday at noon. Well, 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central. So if you like what they have on there, you might want to jump on it. There will be the secret box comes on Monday. Pretty certain. I think that's what they've announced. Secret box will be available on Monday from Creative Memories. I also, if you are waiting for the pod, insert some of the storage items, I believe those are also supposed to be coming on Monday. That's the plan, at least. I'm trying to think, there was Croptoberfest items will come out on the 28th. So that's in a couple, or not quite, just a little over a week and a half. So very exciting things coming from Creative Memories in the next few weeks. And there was something else. Oh, I wanted to really just quickly talk. I know many of you pre-ordered punches. The tractor punch, the trail sign punch, and the square tile punch are back in stock. They are now, the tractor punch was available. I don't know if it still is. If you had not pre-ordered it, there was a limited quantity that was going to be available on the website. If you didn't pre-order it and you want it, I would go to the website right now, and if they have it, grab it. If you pre-ordered those, you would have gotten a little 4x6 card in the mail from Creative Memories as part of the order that you placed when you did it. And they talk about redeeming. The lawn people are here. It's Wednesday, not Thursday. Why are they here? So to redeem it, but you really don't have to do anything. There's nothing that's going to pop up and say add to order. What Creative Memories has at their back end is they have a way, it will trigger them to say, yep, Megan ordered these punches, drop them into her box. It's going to be on your packing slip, but it won't be on your order confirmation. You won't see it in your cart. I do think that the redeem wording was a little bit confusing. So that will be something I'll communicate to Creative Memories. This is the first time really that they've done this. So we're all kind of learning how we need to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. So that's just the thing to know. If you had pre-ordered them, maybe you forgot you pre-ordered them. As soon as you order, they're going to pop you'll be in your box. You'll be like Christmas all in the middle of August. The same thing will happen in October if you pre-ordered the fireworks punch or you pre-ordered paw punch. Those will also automatically be ordered to your first order place after they come back into the warehouse. So be on the lookout for that. I think we're all hugely anticipating getting the paw punch. I was super excited. The fireworks have also been extremely popular too. So those are great, great things. So thanks for joining me today. Like I said, I will have this video posted later. So yeah, Gian, I'm sorry you missed the initial live, but you'll be able to watch the recording. And if you are able to share, if you make the layout, I would love to see it. if you have any tips, and we always love to see what collections you use, what tools you use. If you use circles, maybe use other punches. Great ways that you can customize it. There is the hashtag down here below. If you do share it into Scrapbooking with Megan, if you want to be able to link that there, the Scrapbook Live 0816. That just makes it easy if anybody goes back later and wants to see the various options that people did, how they created it and customized it. That makes it easy for them to do so. All right, again, thanks so much. Have a fantastic week. I hope everybody stays reasonably cool and comfortable. I'm a little sweaty. I'm going to go cool off with some ice water and open my boxes. I'm super excited. All right, take care. I will see you in 2 weeks. We'll have Scrapbook Live on August 30th. That will be the next one. We will do borders. And then after that, we will start back to our weekly basis. My kids start school on the first Wednesday in September. So I think it's the first Wednesday. It's right after Labor Day. They start. So I will be back to the weekly schedule because they're going to be in school. All right. Take care. See you soon.